So for those of you who haven't worked with larger code bases, understanding how to navigate a larger code base can kind of be daunting. I'm going to kind of teach you some techniques you can learn to get better at navigating code bases that you're not familiar with, especially if it's like a Next.js application that has like a file-based router. Depending on what you're building, some of these things may or may not apply to you, but again, this is a web development channel, so I'm going to teach you how to do it if you're doing web development. So in my starter kit, we have an application that's starting to grow in size, right? It's not necessarily a large, I wouldn't even call this a medium-sized application, but it has some functionality. It has nested routes. And inside those routes, you can go and view sub-routes. And there's stuff here, right? You can go over here, you can view the settings of a user, and that also has some nested functionality as well. And as applications get larger, navigating the code base and trying to find the exact component you're looking for can get a little challenging. Also switch over here to the profile of the user like this. All right, so there's a lot going on here. This is a small application, but there's a lot going on here if you're kind of a beginner. The first thing that I need to point out that you need to understand is trying to get to the entry component that displays the page. Okay, what is like the controller of the page? If you're doing traditional MVC, what is the thing that's actually like fetching the data and displaying the whatever? So the first thing that's important to understand is that if you're looking at a page, you should be able to get to the implementation of that page, like the top level controller or route or view for that page in very little steps. And so the way that you can do it in Next.js, which I kind of like, is if it's a URL that happens to have, a number in it, all you need to do is look at the tokens in this URL. So users, posts, and then in your mind, just add a page at the end. Okay, and we're going to go over the VS Code. I'm going to show you how quick it is to get here. I'll say users, post page. Okay, so let's verify. I'm just going to say YOLO here and see if that pops up anywhere on this app, and it does. Okay, so we did successfully find the top level page that's responsible for rendering out the posts that we're currently on. Now, after you find the top level page, it becomes super easy to just like dive down into more components. So command click, you're there in a new component. Let's just go ahead and click on this use case, and then we'll click on this. It'll take you back to the underlying persistence method. So with a couple of command clicks, I went all the way down to the database call that's being used to fetch the data for this page that we're on. And then I'll get used to basically how do you pop off that stack. Well, just command W and keep on closing here all the way back to the main top level page. So again, let's just do it again. I'll click users post, click on a use case, click on an action like this, and then I can just go back to the very top. It's very good to get good at navigating code bases like that. And in your mind, just like know that you're, stepping down into your certain layers of your application, and then you're popping them off to get back to where you were. So the second useful strategy I'd give you is, let's say you don't want to have to like go to the URL and then find the top level and dive down. Another good approach is just copy the text that's in a component. So this one says edit your profile. Go to your editor, Command Shift F, type it in, and there. You're already here. I can modify this, go back to my app. I found that button in less than like 3 seconds, right? So you get good at copying text. Let's try it over here. I'm going to copy this, go over here, type that in, and I'm at that component. Now, granted, if you're using like an internationalization, maybe that could get a little bit wonky because sometimes the text that's displayed here isn't the actual text that's in your code base. You might be doing like a lookup map or calling a function or something. But I would hope there's some like top level key that your internationalization is based off of. So a third approach, which really depends on how you have your application structured, the more files that you split your components up into, this works really well. But you really have to get good at naming your components. So if I were to look at this, what would you think this would be called in my code base? If you said header, that's probably correct, right? There's some type of keyword header that I could look for. What page are we on? We're on the group page. So I could probably just go here and say group header, and I'm at that component. So if you get good at naming your files to match like the main component that it holds, you can also just assume, okay, this is like an info panel. Maybe we can just find like the info page. So like let's say info panel. Okay, well, some stuff popped up. Now, sometimes that doesn't always work because sometimes you don't have a component for that. So for example, I think this is just all on a single like info page. So I could probably just find this by saying like info page and then just go here. And I'm pretty sure that is the component that holds the social links. Yep, here they are. And then also, this is what's displaying on the left, the info panel. Okay, so I did find the component, and the more familiar you get with your code base, the faster you're going to be able to just basically do a fuzzy search. So Command P, type in the component name or something that you might remember from that component to get straight to it. All right, let me give you another example. Let's say I know that I need to go to the data access layer on my code base, and I need to find the section where I'm creating a post. So instead of like trying to navigate the code base and go to the top level page and then dive down to find where this modal opens and then find the form component and then find the button and figure out what action that button calls and then figure out what use case that action calls and figure out what the data access method is. Once you get familiar with the code base a little bit and you have some type of architecture, hopefully, what you can do is I need to find the data access object that allows me to create a post. Okay, so let's go over here. I'm going to say data posts there. Type in create. Okay, so I already found it. Now, if you already know the name of it, you can actually just do a Command P and do a hashtag, like say create post. And that's how you can go directly to that as well if you wanted to. So let's try that again. Let's say create post. Here we go, straight to it. So that could really help as well, like just, quickly finding what you're looking for. Now, I'm going to show you another approach, which doesn't really work that well. If you have the React component extension installed, you can go to a page and you can click on this little button here. And let's say we wanted to find what component holds this create post button. Okay, so down here we clicked on it, and then over here you can see rendered by the create post button. So there actually is a component in my code base called create post button, which allows us to go to here and say create post button, and we can go straight to it like that. Pretty awesome. There's also extensions that I think allow you to like do a certain command shift click, and that'll open the closest component in your VS Code editor, although the ones I found just don't work with Next.js. So if anyone knows, leave a comment. I would love if I could just click on a component and have my VS Code editor take me directly to where it is. So those are some of the main strategies I would do in a Next.js application, because if you look at how many files I have, like, again, I would consider this project very, very small. This is a small project. It doesn't have too many components, but if you're a beginner, you might look at this and say, oh my gosh, this is a lot of different pages and functionality, which might be a little bit overwhelming. Like all these, there's components in all these folders, and then we have this, and we have the groups. Inside of here, we have nested panels. All these have their own actions and pages and stuff like that. And so using the file tree browser, it's not a very good strategy to understanding an application. Like if I were to ask someone from my channel to come in here and like add something, and I said, I need you to go to the members page and fix a bug related for when a user tries to click on, a link to go view a member's profile. If they're over here trying to find like that dashboard page, so like, okay, they're already overwhelmed. There's so many folders, and they're like, oh, okay, which one do I go to? I guess dashboard. Go to groups. Let's go to members. Here we go. Member card actions. Maybe it's in this one. Like it's a lot, right? Instead, like you could simply just go to the groups members page. So group members page, and now we have all the components we need. We can go straight here, and let's just say there's like a execute switch roles. Okay. And click. Okay, so that's all like you're looking at a page. How do I get to the actual like implementation that's doing the thing when I click on a button or like when the page loads? That's all great, but sometimes when you're actually like refactoring code, you want to find out all the places where something is being invoked, right? So for example, we have this authenticated action. Let's say I did some refactoring. I want to figure out where in my code base is touching authenticated action. So basically just highlight this, and on Mac you do Shift FN options 12. That'll take you and show you every single place in this code base that is invoking this function. Okay, so you now know that if I were to refactor this function or change it in some way, you're going to break a lot of code. Okay, you can also just highlight the function and just do a Command Shift F and go ahead and just collapse this, and you'll see all the places that are referencing some type of authenticated action import. If you want to get more specific, you could also just find things that would like make sense to look for. So for example, here is all the places that's being imported and used. So those are some of the strategies. Again, this is more like geared towards Next.js and web development. If you're using, for example, a single page application, typically you're going to have a router. You have like a router file where all of your routes are defined, and the same approach can kind of apply. Like you can just find the URL that you're currently looking at, go to your router and just do a Command F and try to get to the route that matches it best. Same thing if you have like a REST API. Well, typically what you do is when the network request runs, just look at what API path is being invoked, go to whatever router that you're using on the back end for your Express app or your whatever application framework you're using for REST APIs. And just again, start at that entry level, top level router, and then slowly dive down the controllers and whatever else you need, the models to find the code that you're looking for. It really turns into not memorizing your code base, but more of like getting really good at finding what you need with as little mouse clicks or key clicks as possible, because it just, at some point, there's too many components for you to like remember everything. And so instead, find a strategy that works for you to quickly find what you might be looking for. So like read post, let's see if we can find that button. Okay, oh, it's probably here. One of these two is the read post button. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this little tip and trick video. If you did, leave a thumbs up and leave a comment. If you didn't, leave a thumbs up anyway. And have a good day and happy coding.